Hi, welcome to Skylynn Mind Body Health. I am your host, Eileens Hickey. And today I have a special guest, and her name is Micky Mitchell. She's here today to interview me questions about Skylynn Mind Body Health. And so, for starters, what is Skylynn Mind Body Health? Well, we started off spring 2018 with this health initiative for Memorial High School. And our principal actually had the great idea to start this health initiative in our staff and faculty at the high school. And he looked around one day and he thought, you know what? With the way things are going in our society and culture and the diseases that are very prominent, we need to do something about this and take action. So from there, it went to the assistant principal, who then came to me, and she knew I was filled with the plethora of ideas and thoughts about it, and so she handed the project over to me. So this season, or this second year that we're starting, our plan is to go bigger, go district-wide with the Skylynn Mind Body Health initiative, with the health, wellness, and eventually to get back into the community and get involved in community events and hopefully go bigger in that sense of promoting health and wellness, not just for us, staff and faculty, but for people that live in the Southeast Texas area and abroad. So if you have any questions, feel free to, of course, comment, like, subscribe on the YouTube channel, but for now, I'll let Miss Micky Mitchell do all the talking.
Eileen has been preparing to launch Skylynn Mind Body Health her entire life without knowing it. She began her studies in learning the human body in elementary, looking at books that had colorful pictures and descriptions of multiple systems in the human body. In high school, she chose to take human anatomy and physiology. In college, Eileen pursued her first degree in exercise sciences and athletic training, minoring in biology. She went on to further enhance her studies by receiving her master's in exercise sciences and applied sports psychology. In 2011, at the age of 23, Eileen began to experience joint pain in her fingers, ankles, lethargy, depression, anxiety, and massive inflamed hives that began to appear on her torso, arms, thighs, and face. Eileen visited several doctors who tested her for lupus, thyroid issues, rheumatoid arthritis, and gout. All tests came back normal, which gave Eileen no answers to her problems. Doctors wanted to prescribe anti-anxiety medications and a general antihistamine to calm down her immune system, which all contained side effects. So she did what she knew best. She read as much material as she could find, and along the way, she met and talked to several people that helped her point in the right direction to heal her body. Eileen realized that her progression to her downward spiraling health didn't occur overnight. It started as a child in elementary with poor dietary decisions. Her condition only worsened, and it revealed itself in college when stress levels were high, and it all began to culminate in visible signs and symptoms. Her journey began in 2011 to figure out root causes to heal her body without prescription medications, and most importantly, to prevent her body from repeating history. It is this material that Eileen has discovered, and she wants to share it with you. Her goal is to help people and give people hope that they indeed can heal their body when given the proper tools.
Well, actually, I was super inspired by reading your information. For as long as I've known you, you've always been a healthy person. But I was curious about how long it must have taken you to realize that your previous choices were the root of your health problems.
That's a great question you ask. I was actually in my college working my bachelor's degree, and I remember very clearly one day I went to work. I'm an athletic trainer, and I went to a softball game when I lived in Odessa, and I had my 2 egg burritos that morning, had my lunch, which was another 2 bean burritos, and I left after about 5 softball games. And then when I got home, I noticed a hive on my side, and I had no idea where it came from. I thought it was I got bit, or it could have been ringworm, or some off-the-wall skin disease. And so all of a sudden, week after week, or very, very often, I started getting skin hives, and I knew something wasn't right. And not only at that time, this was started back in 2011, I was very fatigued, very tired, very overloaded with stress, emotional turmoil, and mental stress going on. And so I think my body just hit that tipping point where signs and symptoms just became very apparent. And this
Wow.
happened in about 2011. And I thought, I'm still young. I'm in my early 20s
Yeah.
at this point. I shouldn't be feeling this way. I should be superwoman, going down and out. And it's lunchtime, and I'm ready for bed.
Right.
So I was deciding, no, it's something that has to change.
Okay, so obviously feeling this way, noticing all this stuff kind of coming together, you went and saw a doctor, right?
I did. At that time, being full load in college and trying to work part-time job and pay bills, I knew my anxiety and my stress was high, which I thought was partly contributing to my skin hiving up. And so I went to the doctor, and he's a great physician, family doctor. And so I asked him to run some blood tests. And so he ran thyroid tests, lupus tests, rheumatoid arthritis tests, and then a basic blood panel, and everything came back normal.
Wow.
And so he thought, you know what, nothing's wrong with you. Take these two prescription medications and take it as long as you need it, which in some cases anxiety medications can be taken for life.
Wow.
And so at that point I was definitely like, this is a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
It's helping my symptoms, maybe, because some of the side effects of the medications were they cause nightmares, they cause anxiety, they cause hives. So how's it really helping my situation if it's just going to be an adverse side effect?
Yeah.
So I thought at that point, I have to do some digging. And I started reading a lot more books, and one in particular came into mind, and that was the Omnivore's Dilemma. And so this particular book, my sister-in-law showed me, and started reading it one day, and I just, in a week, I had read the whole book. Very informative. The man who wrote this, Michael Pollan, he's an investigative journalist, and so he goes through the whole entire series of where our food comes from. And so that kind of kicked off this whole chain reaction of reading all these other books you see in front of you, plus more.
Okay. Once you read the book and you decided to make the change, did your doctors have a positive reaction to that?
I hate to say it, but my first doctor that I went to, he saw so many patients in the daytime that he really didn't care. Like, it was one of those, you're in, whether your symptoms, here's some prescription, see you later.
Yeah, I think we can all say we have doctors like that.
So, if he was to actually look at my overall life at that time, I'm sure he could have found out some better answers. But unfortunately, most of our family doctors are just your regular basic doctor. Doesn't have that time. They have 5 to 10 minutes tops to talk to you and figure out what's going on. And here's a prescription, take it. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so here's my question. You made the diet change, you made the choices, you went against the grain. When was the first time you realized that it started actually helping your life?
Okay, so shortly after I saw that first physician, I worked at a PT clinic, and right across the street was a basic health food shop. And there was an alternative doctor that worked out of his office from there. And when I met him, and I told him what my situation was going, what was happening, this was back in 2012 when I met this guy, and he took a blood sample, and it was a live blood sample under the microscope.
Okay.
And so he actually looked at the sample and said, he was the first guy that told me, pardon my language, but he tells me, he looks at me and he said, I can tell you what's wrong with you. He said, you're full of and I was like, excuse me? He said, no, seriously. He said, if you look at this blood sample, he said, you've already ran all your blood tests, they came back normal. I said, yeah. He said, but this particular blood sample, it shows me that you are low in iron, that your immune system, all your white blood cells are through the roof right now. They're fighting really hard to fight off whatever. There's parasites in my blood sample that he could see. So he said, you're full of all this toxic sludge and parasites, and immune system is inflamed, that your body is doing everything it can to just function on a day-to-day basis. So he was the one that told me, look, if you want to get better, this is what you have to do. And it's started with clean eating. Take out all the Cokes, all the sugars. And I told him, well, I have smoothies every morning. He said, do you put fruit in it? I said, yes. He said, take the fruit out. He said, right now you're on a zero sugar diet. So lots of vegetables, lots of clean meats, whether it was grass-fed, wild-caught, And I did that for about 6 months, and then he put me on a whole detox of supplement pills for a month, and that's when I started to make the change of the road to recovery and feeling better.
Okay, so that's an extreme shift.
Oh yeah.
For somebody who's used to what we usually eat around here, which is often processed foods. After all of that, were you able to see something drastic that changed your mind, that made you feel like, okay, you know what, all of this is worth it, I'm in the right spot?
I started feeling better, and I went back to him 6 months later, and we did the live blood sample again, and my blood had cleared up dramatically. My immune cells had decreased, my white blood cells. My red blood cells looked healthier. I had more iron back in them. My red blood cells were actually moving like the way they should. So that was, to me, seeing that underneath the microscope, how by changing my lifestyle and what I ate and what I put into it can actually help heal my body. And since then, that happened in 2012 with live blood sample, it's been a continuing journey to figure out exactly what certain triggers are. Because even when I changed my diet, I did feel better. One of the first things I noticed was my skin cleared up. Horrible acne at the time. And so my skin cleared up dramatically. I got to the point where I didn't have to wear makeup anymore. If I chose to wear makeup, it was just eyeliner.
That must be nice.
Yep. My digestion improved dramatically. So it's recommended you go once a day, if not after every meal. Not everyone does bowel movement once a day. So that improved dramatically. But I still kept getting hives, and I didn't know what was causing the hives. So shortly after 2012, I moved to a city called Comfort, and I was pointed in another direction through family friends that there was a doctor who tested for allergies. And so I went and saw this doctor, and he did the regular physical, the blood panels, they all came back, but he actually tested my food allergies on my arm. So what you do is you get a little tiny needle, and they poke you right underneath the skin. They just test the various food items. So if it's milk, dairy, corn, soy, wheat, antihistamine even, they go in, they poke you, and they wait 8 minutes. And in that 8 minutes, you tell the nurse what you feel. So that could be anything from sleepiness, itchy nose, running watery eyes, bloating, fatigue, and that's how they can pick up if you have any sort of food sensitivities. So I knew right then, okay, I'm heading in the right direction. I am getting healthier, but I was still continuing to eat wheat and corn and products that had soy. So, every now and then I have pizza, got pasta. When I got those tests confirmed saying, you do have food sensitivities to wheat and corn and soy, you have to discontinue that if you're going to continue to get better. So that was, again, another get strict on my diet.
Right.
And now moving to Port Arthur, moving forward, I have a great family physician that I go to once a year and get my blood panels checked, just basic physical. But she actually refers to a doctor named Dr. Herndon, and he's a ear, nose, and throat doctor, but he also does allergy testing. And so at that time, I did test for food and outdoor allergies. And it turns out that my food allergies have decreased, so I'm not near as sensitive to some of the foods anymore. But my outdoor allergies are through the roof. I'm allergic to everything.
Welcome to Texas.
I know. Everything but elder. I'm allergic to all the other trees, which is oak, cedar, and then some certain grasses, ragweed, which is everywhere. So now I think I'm finally at that point that I'm eating the right foods. I'm avoiding foods that I shouldn't be eating. I'm taking the supplements that he recommends for the outdoor allergies, and I'm thriving. I go to work and I have coworkers who are like, "Eileen, you're always smiling. Like, you're always smiling."
It's nice to feel good, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, okay, so, the whole focus of this whole process that you're doing is mind, body, and health. What inspired you to start this? Why are you sharing this with everyone?
Well, for one, my assistant principal asked me to. Just kidding. All this material I've read, it's stuck in my brain. And lots of it's itching to get out. I'm in the right field and dealing with the injuries, but there's a lot more going on the inside of their bodies that's making them, when they do get injured, it triggers such a massive response in the immune system. So it tells me that their body's already inflamed. So that's part of doing the Skylynn Mind Body Health, is getting the tools out there to know that you can eat certain foods, take certain supplements, do certain things within your life, but they have to be life-changing to get better. I have a family history. My mom has lupus. My sister, we thought, was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis at one point. Turned out, thankfully, it was not. It was a virus. But those are things that went through my head at that time of, if this is in my family heritage, am I going to get that?
Right.
Am I going to get lupus? Am I going to get rheumatoid arthritis? Am I going to be predisposed to type 2 diabetes? And the more I read, a lot of these chronic diseases, they're not inherited. A lot of it, based on your healthy food choices and what you do and what you put in your body, can be prevented. And I tell my kids, as an athletic trainer, my profession is prevention. If I can prevent as many things from happening, then I've done my job.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Well, it seems you have a lot of literature here. I'm assuming you've read these.
About most of them, yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay. So let's see. Who are some of the SMEs, the subject matter experts, that you have found to be the most helpful?
When I first moved here in 2014, I weighed 150 pounds, which may not sound like a lot to some. For me, it was a huge deal because I was having to wear a size 10 pant, and I was used to wearing size 6.
Yes, you're like this big round.
Yeah, thanks. So at that time, I came across a book, an author, Yuri Elkum, and he has written several books based on his diet and his techniques. From day 1, you took pictures, you did waist measurements, to day 30, you did pictures, you did waist measurements, and you documented how you felt throughout each week. I lost weight. Within 3 months, I dropped from 150 to 140, and within 6 months, I was down to 134. So his stuff, it's a take on, it's a mix of everything common sense, I think. So if you like keto diet, he does a lot of clean proteins, healthy fats. If you like the paleo diet, he encourages, eating potatoes and starches and rice. His biggest thing is staying off gluten, staying off soy, staying off wheat, and in some cases corn on the diets. So if you look at the standard American diet, that's all we eat is wheat, corn, and soy. What healthy is what is healthy about that? So he was a big hitter in my life. Of course, The Omnivore's Dilemma, which were one of the first books I came across. Michael Pollan has written several books about food and where our food comes from, the food chain, who owns the food, who creates the food, type processes. It's interesting fun fact. He mentions what's in a chicken nugget that makes it a chicken nugget.
I don't know if I want to know the answer to that.
Well, it's not really chicken.
I didn't think it was.
It's almost about like 98% corn derivatives.
Wow, that's a lot more than I expected there to be.
So if your chicken is white meat, then you're lucky it's white meat.
Huh.
Otherwise, it's anything but chicken. So it's knowing that simple stuff like that. How the crops are grown. If you're eating GMO crops, does that affect the body? A lot of science is pointing to, yes, GMO crops are affecting the intestinal linings. That's what's causing our low-grade inflammation, which leads to all XYZ, you name it, the disease.
GMOs.
Yep.
Okay. Well, here's a question for you. I'm sure everybody wants to know. When you are just at that point and you are hungry, what do you reach for? What's your go-to healthy snack?
That's a smoothie.
Yeah?
Yeah. They're easy. It's pre-digested. You don't have to chew.
Right, you can do it fast.
And also peanut butter balls. It's a fairly new recipe I found. It's super simple. All it is peanut butter, oatmeal, and honey or syrup. You mix it all together. You can add in your nuts or chocolate chips or
that sounds pretty good. It sounds like dessert.
It really is. So you mix it all up, you make a little ball, you put it in the fridge for about 30 minutes, it hardens just enough, and then I take that on the go with me.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So it has your protein, it has your fats, and it has the carbs. And it's healthy.
It's healthy. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. I'm really glad that we had a chance to interview. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, but if y'all have any questions, comments, please like, subscribe, and definitely shoot me an email. Let me know.
Bye, guys.